Welcome back to Forward Progress, presented by FanDuel. We're back and we're taking a look at which NFL team will be this year's breakout team. I'm your host here, Jason Cooper, alongside Clive Bigsby at Clive Bigsby 41 on Twitter. And let's get right into things. Last year, we saw the Washington Commanders kind of come out of nowhere, completely smash expectations, and it's fair to say that the 2024 year breakout team was far and away the Washington Commanders. Well, Clive and I put together two teams each. We got four teams who we think could break out in 2025. What breakout means, listen, it's pretty loosey-goosey as it goes. For me, I have teams sort of tiered out into five different tiers, either Super Bowl contenders, playoff teams that can get a playoff win, teams that are on the cusp of the playoffs, teams that are in no man's land, not going to make the playoffs, and then just the basement. And for me, a breakout team is a team that I could see vaulting to the next tier. Clive, I'll let you lead off, though. Tell us a little bit about how you would contextualize a breakout and how you picked your two teams, and then go right into your first team.
So I guess for me, the way that I would look at it is what are the market expectations for the team versus what they did last year versus the changes that they made and who looks like they can overperform. And part of what goes into that equation for me too is teams that performed well last year that are probably going to maybe regress a little bit themselves. So for me, my two teams are based around 2 second-year quarterbacks.
Makes sense. Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, and it doesn't always happen that way. I mean, Jaden Daniels had such a good rookie year, which is really just not that common, obviously. But there are two quarterbacks that I don't think performed, great, but showed flashes. And first, partially a homer pick. I probably should have wore the hat, but that would have spoiled it a little bit. The Chicago Bears, and I think a lot of it has to do with the head coach, Ben Johnson. They made some improvements on their offensive line. Their draft could be considered a little iffy. You can go either way on that. But the question is, for me, can this offense and Caleb Williams gel together enough to help eliminate some of those self-imposed pressure to sacks that he had last year? He loved to do it. There were times where it looked like it was getting a little better at the end of the season, but it still existed. But Detroit has two new coordinators. Minnesota does not have Darnold. Green Bay, Jordan Love, very inconsistent last year, and I didn't love what I saw from the Packers. So I think the Bears have the potential to overperform in that division.
Yeah, and it's a tough division too. I'm down on the Lions this year, and I'm sure everyone who watches our content knows how high I am on the Bears, how highly I think of Caleb Williams. They have incredible weapons, a great offensive coordinator, a great head coach who calls plays for them in Ben Johnson. I really think the upside case is there for them as a true breakout team in 2025. Yeah, I'm fully in agreement with you on that. And currently right now on FanDuel, this was shocking for me to see, but plus 190 for them to make the playoffs. That feels just like way too low when you look at the other caliber of teams around them, like the Miami Dolphins at plus 205, Seattle Seahawks plus 180, Jacksonville Jaguars plus 180. Like, if we're going to talk about breakout teams, I wanted to pick the Chicago Bears as a breakout team, but I had to give it to you and let you take them. You're the guest here. So I agree with you in that they would be one of my breakout teams, but for the process of this video, I have two different teams.
Yeah, so and the way that I would look at it too is I don't look at it as if their ceiling is super, super high. I just think that middle range of making the playoffs and being a contender is a little bit better than the prices that you see.
Yeah, fair enough. Market, it seems like you liked some stuff in market. Maybe we'll see at plus 190 to make the playoffs. All right, on to the next one. I'm going to lead it off here. One of my breakout teams in 2025 is the New England Patriots. And I think this is kind of cheating because that is super, super baked into market. They're an 8.5 win, just an 8.5 win team according to FanDuel. Slight juice towards the under at minus 125 there. So the market is already incredibly high on this. The market sort of agrees with them as potentially being a team that can vault into the next tier and make the playoffs into 2025. But the upside case scenario, let's just make it anyways. You've two big additions in Josh McDaniel and Mike Vrabel. You also have Drake May. Last year, that offense was rather run vanilla, we'll call it. Vanilla offense under Alex Van Pelt. They didn't push the ball downfield a lot. Not a lot of deep plays, not a lot of explosive plays. They're 29 out of 32 teams in explosive play rate. I get maybe why, as they're wide receiver talent wasn't there, but Drake May can throw the ball deep. He has a cannon for an arm. He can push the ball downfield. It seems like they didn't really want them. The Patriots didn't want him to do that last year. On top of that, I mean, tons of issues in terms of pressures and sacks. They were the fourth most pressured team in the league. Their quarterback was the fourth most pressured player in the league. So, I mean, you bring in Josh McDaniels, I don't want to say he's a great coordinator, but he's definitely a competent coordinator. You have all those things that you can maybe improve upon. You have a QB who has truly, I believe, elite upside in Drake May. I mean, with slightly improved weapons, there is a real upside case scenario to this offense, which was one of the worst in the league last year. Maybe it can push towards the league median and be a lot better in 2025. And then you look on the defensive side of the ball. We've seen what Mike Vrabel was able to do in terms of elevating the talent he has on his roster. Listen, the Patriots didn't really add too many pieces, too many noteworthy names on defense, but I really think that Mike Vrabel has that ability to elevate. They were one of the worst teams in terms of EPA per play on defense last year. There's room for growth there, and I think Mike Vrabel is the type of head coach who can untap that potential. Listen, I could be overrating Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels and their abilities, and that's where things can go wrong here for the Patriots, but it seems like the market agrees with me that the upside scenario is there for the New England Patriots. So one of my breakout teams in 2025, the New England Patriots.
Yeah, the one thing I'd say about that too is with Vrabel, I think what you could see a lot from him is playing to lose by less instead of optimizing your decisions to actually win games. So they're a team that I'm going to pay a lot of attention to when it comes to looking at the market and looking at spreads. But they have been known to, or Vrabel teams have been known to overperform in the past. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of upside there. It'll be just interesting to see if he's changed any of his game management tendencies.
Yeah, listen, no coach is perfect. Obviously, Vrabel has that like Mike Tomlin-esque ability to just elevate. Dan Campbell has to make his team elevate and just play above their head, but they all have flaws somewhere, and that's one of Mike Vrabel's flaws. Before we get into the next two teams we're going to discuss here, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors over at FanDuel. It might be the offseason, but if you want to bet on NFL futures, FanDuel is the place to go for that action. They have tons of offseason futures available at FanDuel Sportsbook, including MVP, season leaders in passing, rushing, receiving props for players. They have team futures as well. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Who's going to win their respective conference, their respective division? What stage of an elimination each team will lose at? On top of that, they have win totals and alt win totals that you can parlay all the way together. The excitement for something new is live at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/forward progress to download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/forward progress. All right. 2 teams down, 2 more to go, Clive. Who you got as another breakout team in 2025?
So when I'm looking at them as a breakout team, they made the playoffs last year. It was the Denver Broncos. But I don't think and had no expectation of them to be competitive in the playoffs last year, especially in that game against Buffalo. That game really did go the way that I expected it to go. They did make some good additions to their team. There are going to be some health questions around those additions. Like, let's say J.K. Dobbins, right? Like, when's the last time he played a full, season of NFL? I don't know that he ever has, actually, without looking at it off the top of my head, but it feels like he gets hurt very, very often. They brought in Evan Ingram. They brought in a couple of defensive pieces from the 49ers also that have had significant injuries in the past, in Greenlaw and Hufanga. But a second-year quarterback in Nix, which I don't think they're going to ask too much of. And I think that's kind of the beauty of that team is he doesn't have to do too much because the defense is so stacked typically. And if he can just progress a little bit, use Evan Ingram a little bit as well, I think there's a little bit of upside there. And part of this is also a bet from an AFC West perspective that sees Kansas City kind of drop from their perch a little bit. And I could see the Chargers going either way of maybe getting a little bit better, their second year with Harbaugh. But I think the most upside versus expectation in that whole division would be Denver.
Yeah, and they made like a great They used their first round pick to like address their biggest weakness in terms of their defense, drafting Jahdae Barron. Big addition considering how cooked Riley Moss was last year. And you mentioned J.K. Dobbins. They also drafted R.J. Harvey. So it's like there's guys that they can fill in potentially to do that. But yeah, like this defense is so strong. It could easily be the best defense in the NFL. The floor is there. And listen, if you watch this channel, you know that we think Patrick Mahomes has gotten a little bit fat, so he might fall off a little bit for the Kansas City Chiefs. But no, there's a real case to be made why the Kansas City Chiefs aren't the true world beaters that they were once before, and we could see them potentially take a step back this year, and the Broncos kind of vault in front of them.
I think there's a world where going into week 9 against the Texans that you could see Denver being 7-1.
Yeah, that's very fair. Very fair. Denver Broncos breakout team 2025. Let's close it out here with the last team that we have. For me, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think the upside case is pretty simple for the Jaguars. They have Brian Thomas. They have Travis Hunter. And for them to be a breakout team, we're going to need to see those guys become the 2 elite weapons that they're projected to be in the NFL. And then on top of that, Trevor Lawrence has to fill out his potential, take that next leap into the upper echelon of quarterback tiering. And the way for this to happen, all of this can get unlocked by the new head coach, Liam Cohen, who I believe he can help install a more modern offense with the Jaguars. Last year, we saw the Jaguars run, I think it was 30th. They were 30th in motion rate, running it only 34 times per drop back. Liam Cohen, it wasn't like he was as high as other teams in the 75% range. He ran it about 50% of the time. But again, that's a massive jump compared to where the Jaguars are last year. That motion should be able to help, as we've seen with other quarterbacks, maybe loosen up Trevor Lawrence, open things up downfield for him. My only major concern is this defense and that cornerback room. They were atrocious in terms of defending the pass, last in EPA per drop back. They didn't improve much in the secondary, but the thing I'm holding on to where this defense might be a little bit better is that cornerback play. We know it's not sticky year over year. Maybe we get some luck, some positive, I don't want to call it regression, but maybe a little bit of luck on our side where their cornerback isn't the worst grouping in the league, but it's maybe the 23rd or 22nd. And then that could be a path where the defense plays well enough that offense kind of uncaps their ceiling, uncaps their potential. And we see a breakout team in terms of the Jags in 2025. I think they could really make a jump, be a playoff team. And yeah, that's my breakout team. So Jacksonville Jaguars and New England Patriots. What are your thoughts on the Jags as a breakout team?
Yeah, I think one of the things that Cohen did really well last year, and this was before Chris Godwin got hurt with the Bucs, is I don't want to say it was an easy button, so to speak, but he created a lot of screens and a lot of short passes for Baker Mayfield. And I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Baker Mayfield because I think he had a great season. However, if you looked at his average depth of target when Chris Godwin was in the lineup and the yards after catch and the things that Cohen was able to set up with his offense, I think that could happen here with the Jags too, and maybe make life a little bit easier for Trevor Lawrence. So I'm actually kind of excited to see what could happen because I don't think there's a lot to be excited about in the AFC South, in my opinion. So I want to see how these offensive coaches come in and elevate these quarterbacks that I think for all intents and purposes are kind of looked at as mid. So like Caleb Williams, while he has upside, what's Ben Johnson going to do there? Can Trevor Lawrence get over that kind of a hump and have an offensive mastermind that can kind of help him? Like, is that it's going to be, is it the system or the player or kind of what's the combination of each? And we'll see how much those offensive head coaches can elevate their quarterbacks.
Yeah, and both those guys kind of had bad draws at offensive coordinators and head coaches in the past year, which is part of the reason why like we're looking for them to break out, right? Like you go from a poor offensive coach or a poor head coach, and I mean, just by nature of improving in that aspect, teams should have a better chance to break out. Any honorable mentions before we get yelled at in the comments for missing other people's favorite breakout candidates?
That's a good question. Another breakout team. I don't know if you consider the Vikings a breakout. I can see an upside there where JJ McCarthy could be really good and that offense could hum. Other than that, I mean, when the last time I was on with you, we talked about the Panthers as a team potentially going over their win total. I didn't really want to go back to the well, but I mean, in that division, I could see the Panthers still overperforming. Really looking forward to see what they do this season. But those are probably the two that I would think of.
All right, fair enough. Those two teams. And hey, if we missed out on anyone, let us know in the comment section down below. And if you made it this far in the video, do us a favor, smash that like button. It goes a long way for us here on the channel. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button as well. We have tons of content coming your way, including a Q&A. So make sure you drop your questions down below so we can answer them. Yeah, make sure you're subscribed, guys. I don't want to tease it right now, but we have like a really fun series coming out towards the end of July and throughout August. So yeah, I'm sure you want to be subscribed. If you're already subscribed, turn on your notification bells for that, because it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know how much more I can say, but it will be a lot of fun. That's it for us, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.